Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of World Talks here on TVP World. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and please join me and my guests on this next interview. The EU-US trade pact signed in Scotland is being hailed as a landmark, but not by everyone. The 15% baseline tariff on most European exports, along with billions in EU energy and investment commitments to the United States, has drawn mixed reactions, especially across Central and Eastern Europe. With major export sectors like automotive and machinery in the firing line, CE economies face disproportionate fallout. Joining us today on TVP World to break down what this means for the region is Ivan Štefanec, a former Slovakian member of European Parliament from European People's Party, a veteran of European economic policymaking with deep experience navigating transatlantic trade dynamics. Hello, sir, and welcome to TVP World.
Good morning. Thank you for the invitation.
So as soon as this 15% tariff deal has been announced, we see Germany, France kind of really freaking out, saying that this is going to hurt their economy substantially. How does Central and Eastern Europe stack up compared to the rest of the EU?
Well, Central and Eastern Europe is heavily dependent on the export opportunities, and it means that it will have a major impact on the economy in Central and Eastern Europe. Definitely, this deal will mean that in Central and Eastern Europe we will have less unemployment, higher prices, and a lower economical growth. We have to take into consideration also the situation that 10 years ago we negotiated on the EU level, basically common market with US. Now it is not on the table anymore, and 15% tariffs, it's quite a lot, and it will have a severe economical impact, particularly to Central European economies exporting automotive machinery, chemicals, and other products. Basically, 20% of EU export goes to the United States. So it means that this will mean also severe impact to the whole economy.
Right, and countries like Slovakia, Czechia, they're very heavily dependent on German auto export as well. How exposed are they to this agreement?
Very much so, because you are absolutely right. We are very much dependent on the export opportunities. Basically, the whole Central Eastern European region, particularly Slovakia and Czech Republic, they are export-oriented countries, small economies, heavily dependent on the export opportunities. And particularly automotive industry is the key industry. We have to understand that at the beginning of the year, there was only 2.5% tariffs on the automotive sector, going from EU to the United States. Now it will be 15%, so 6 times more. So it will mean there will be basically higher prices and also less investments into new projects. So it means less job opportunities and basically quite important impact on the economical growth. Some economists already say that it will have such impact that Central European economies probably will grow less than 1% next year.
All right, I like how you're highlighting the fact that it's not just a direct impact, but there's also a ripple effect that might be a problem down the line. Now, looking at Poland, where there's a relatively more modest export to the United States, how impactful do you think that will be? Do you think that the lack of exports is going to make Poland relatively insulated from the deal, or is that ripple effect also going to affect Poland as well?
In terms of Poland, there will be some impact, but not as high impact as in terms of Slovakia and Czech Republic and in Hungary as well. So Poland is much bigger country, is not heavily oriented to export to US, but still there are some products which will have also some impact to Polish economy. But I think in comparison between Poland and other Central European economies, it can show also the example for future that we have to be more independent from US export. We have to try to make much better deals on the European level with other economies, particularly Asian and South American opportunities are here. And last but not least, we have to deepen EU integration. We need European reforms. We need to invest much more into defense industry. So we have to improve agriculture. We have to reform our economy. So I think Poland shows a good example for other countries, and basically this is a learning exercise. I hope that for the whole EU, and particularly for Central European economies, it will be wake-up call to focus more on our internal competitiveness, on our internal reforms, and on European integration as well, because we have to complete single market in the European Union. We have to focus much more on the support of small and medium entrepreneurs, who are the key drivers for growing economy. And last but not least, we have to invest much more into education, which will be resulted in innovative projects. Still, this is not the end of earth. It will have negative impact, but this deal between EU and US shows how world is changing, and also how we have to change and how we have to invest much more into education and into our competitiveness.
Right. I really appreciate how, like I mentioned, with these changes already taking place, people are already thinking about how to adapt to it. And we might see like a very different economical structure going forward if Europe wants to adapt to this kind of trade deal that's taking place. Some critics are also saying that EU has been giving up too much for too little. Do you think that there's still any space for leverage when it comes to further negotiation on things like steel, aluminum, or like further exemptions?
Well, I agree with critics that basically this deal is not balanced. We give too much to the US. I don't have problem personally with investing into defense industry and with buying more energy from US because we have to diversify energy sources, and we have to diversify also suppliers. But I think the key issue is, and the key question is, if there will be some tariffs applied from US exports coming to EU, because there was no deal about that. And if all goods from EU into US will be taxed by 15%, and it will be not vice versa, there will be zero tariffs from US to EU. So this is clear a sign that this is not a balanced agreement. If there is room for another negotiation, particularly in terms of steel and aluminium, the answer is definitely yes, because 50% tariffs which still are applied on steel and aluminium are basically critical for European producers, and there must be pressure from European authorities to change it. I hope there is some deal, and still there is some room, because, for example, the deal about semiconductors, deal about some food products, there will be zero tariffs according to published information. It shows that still there is some room for negotiation. I think we have to put the pressure on our US partners, and once again, this is not the end of the world. Maybe it could be worse, because we knew that 2 months ago, US president threatened by 50% tariffs. 1 month ago, it was 30%. Now it is 15%. So it is not as bad as it could be, but still there is a negative impact and clear negative signs for our economy. So we have to keep negotiating, and we have to put pressure on our US partners, showing that there must be some better balanced deal, because we are major trading partners. EU and US, it will create half of world trade. And we are coming to the new era, probably with less free trade and more a reduction of free trade, more barriers for trade. But we have to be clever. We have to represent our European interest, and once again, still keeping negotiating with US.
Right. Speaking of European interest, just one perhaps silver lining, maybe help me understand whether or not this is true, because we also saw European Union made a commitment to spend 750 billion on U.S. energy. With there's this already is push to exit from Russian energy. Do you think that this would actually be the nudge that Europe needs to finally fully pull out of Russian energy, or at least limit it, because now that they have this commitment to buy American?
Well, to pull out from Russian energy, it is not only economical, but it is a moral question. We cannot continue to finance Russian war against Ukraine, because this is Russian war against the whole Europe. So this is the principal question, that we have to stop finance Russian terrorism. And at the same time, we have to look for new sources. From this point of view, this commitment for 750 billion, basically spread over 3 years, it means 250 billion a year. It is quite achievable, and I don't have a problem. I don't see any major problems with that, because we need new sources, we need new suppliers, and the US can provide it. Of course, price will be world price, so there will be no major economical impact with that. I think problematic are tariffs, 15% tariffs, but not really this commitment with energy supply.
All right. Thank you so much for your input and insight. Really appreciate it. And thanks for being with us on TVP World.
Thank you indeed.
Cheers. And thank you for tuning into this edition of World Talks. But for more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.